And so I was trying to explain why an African biologist should be interested in something which is not actually really evident in the African world. Now, first of all, just very briefly, what is psychical research? The bottom line is that mind seems to be operating independently of physical space-time or physical structures, and it's conventional to break this study up into a number of different items. A few are indicated here: telepathy, mind-to-mind, clairvoyance, mind-to-object, precognition, other way around, psychokinesis, also other way around, out-of-body and near-death experiences, awareness in non-physical states. Well, now, I wasn't remotely interested in all this until about the age, in the middle 20s, when I came across something which is very commonly practiced in Africa, which is short of water, and that is dowsing. I define it here as a direct sensing of objects without the mediation of survey apparatus. And the usual context for this is finding water. Most farmers, most landowners are not particularly keen to call in the geological survey, very expensive, very time-consuming, and don't often come up with the right answers, whereas there are very many water dowsers in South Africa who are remarkably successful. They use either a pendulum or a rod or a bottle of water or pretty well anything else, even their facial muscles. And it requires no costly procedures. It can be remarkably accurate regarding locality of water, the water source, the depth of the water source, and the yield. Now, this was quite worrying because conventional science says it's not possible. You can't do this kind of thing. So you either have to declare it fraudulent or in some way fishy, or accept that the standard ideas of physics or science generally are inadequate, or else, like most people, you just quietly forget about it. But I was not able to forget about it because I made use of water that had been located by a dowser. And so I was not able to forget about this rather difficult situation that a scientist finds himself in if he's a conventional scientist, because it does show that the mind is shown to be an independent element. Now, this is especially the case in what's called map dowsing, where you present the dowser with a map, a topocadastral or other kind of map, and you say, can you find some water? And whatever his technique is, very often with a pendulum, he'll go around this until he gets the right kind of swing. And he'll say, here you will find your water. And then checking on questions that he puts in his mind, almost back to his mind, recorded in the swing of the pendulum, he'll tell you how deep you have to bore and what kind of yield you have to or can expect. Now, this is an idea that standard science doesn't like very much, because standard science is based on the idea that mind somehow is a product of physical bits and pieces in the brain and can't be independent. It's a complete product of the physical world, not something that is actively outside the physical world in the case of its operations. So what do you do? Well, you can ignore it, of course. I chose to study it rather than to reject the data, which they were there in my glass of water. So that led me to ask, well, what other research fields are there which study mind as an independent element? And the answer came up as psychical research, or what the Americans call parapsychology. Now, a society for psychical research was founded in London in 1882 to facilitate research efforts, and I'm glad to say that it is still a flourishing society. It supports free science. It contests conventional attitudes of incredulity, which display outdated science and poor scholarship. Now, that's not a very nice thing to say, outdated science, but in fact, one can link this up with advanced directions that science is taking. I had a lot of confidence given to me by a South African mathematician and mystic, Michael Whiteman, who produced an ontological framework which really made this seem quite inevitable that this kind of thing has got to happen. And he regarded this as being good science and also good scholarship, because it was a survey of similar thinking right back to the Vedas or Minoan culture, right back through our human story. So one finds still that in this society there is this great encouragement, and I might say that one gets a lot of discouragement from elements in our world still, notably Wikipedia, which has the strategy almost of downplaying anything that comes in the form of what psychical research or mysticism actually studies. So if I'm addressing young people, I'd say beware Wikipedia. You won't get an honest answer. The society itself is actually going to produce a kind of a mirror Wikipedia in which we hope that information regarding psychical and mystical matters will be put in a true and honest manner. So my conviction, and I'm writing a book about this, mainly on Michael Whiteman, is that there is no incompatibility between psychical phenomena and advances in physics. My particular interest now is in out-of-body experience. All I can say is that it is actually an immensely complicated subject. There are all sorts of problems one comes across when you start to look at it closely. One has to think about the independent existence of mind from the physical body. How is this possible? It can't happen in the physical world, so there must be non-physical worlds where this happens. So out-of-body experience indicates the presence of non-physical environments and the possibility of existence in them, which is quite something which is out of the normal orbit of conventional science. It will inevitably lead to the questions about the existence of life after physical death. It then becomes a field of research and not simply an area of fantasy. And I'm glad to say that the Psychical Research Society, right from its start, has made very deep studies in this field. Some of them have been most disappointing in the uncovery of fraud, but there also have been some very convincing work as well, which really does show that we are dealing with a proper research field and not with some kind of fantasy. So my question is, isn't psychical research something to be interested in? And I would ask young people to think about this, because there are university courses in this country where one can pursue this kind of subject. Thank you.